Welcome back to the Stay-at-Home GM podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell McCann, and with me today, my co-host, Steven Sowert. As you can see, no fantasy guru Patrick today, as he's too busy celebrating finally trading away Roshan Johnson off his dynasty team. So it's just the main duo here, talking today about the AFC and NFC South and West divisions today. And we'll start in the AFC South. Houston Texans coming off a slightly disappointing season after the first rookie year with CJ Stroud. They went all in, got Diggs last year, bought some paces around, and he kind of had a sophomore slump, but they also still went and got a couple more guys in the free agency. They went and got Nick Chubb coming from Cleveland, traded for Christian Kirk, Braxton Berrios, Justin Watson, wide receivers. They also get Trent Brown, Cam Robinson. They trade for C.J. Gardner-Johnson from the Eagles.
Who's already out for the season.
Already out for the season after all that smack talking about how terrible the culture is. And with Tank Dell going to be out for most of the season, just going to be Nico Collins to go in again in the draft to go get Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. And also Jalen Knoll as well in their wide receiver. So they've been going to have some rookies there, trying to fill some shoes for some veterans there. So, Steve, what's the Houston Texans' perfect season look like with these moves?
Yeah, I mean, they had a great defense last year, and I don't think that's really going to change too much this year. I think that's going to be their main source of success this season, uh, especially with the way the offense looks. They traded away their best O lineman, Laramie Tunsil. They got rid of Kenyon Green. That's definitely the weakest point of their offense is that O line. You can't replace Tunsil with Cam Robinson and Trent Brown. And I don't know, like I said, the defense is gonna have to take a priority. They're gonna try to run the ball. Joe Mixon's gonna do what he usually does, have a high amount of volume, probably not gonna be super efficient, but um with the other running backs in that room, it's pretty much Mixon's team in that backfield because I mean Chubb, he's probably not going to be the guy who he once was. We already know who Pierce is. There's a little bit of rumblings about was the Mark Woods or the other running back that they had who's
Woody
fourth string.
Marks.
Yeah, Woody Marks, that's what it was. But uh right now it seems like Pierce is taking snaps away from him. So yeah, a lot of excitement around Jaden Higgins. I think Nico's just gonna be a beast. Yeah, just gotta hope everyone on the offense stays healthy, but I wouldn't expect like a complete like breakout season from CJ Stroud. I'm not expecting like 35 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, anything like that.
Yeah, I think the O line still is an issue. You said with the departures of Tunsil and Kenyon Green, they did bring in those two tackles, Robinson and Trent Brown. They also brought in Lincoln Tomlinson as a guard. So there's still work to be done on that O line. So hopefully they'll address that either next offseason or the draft, hopefully. But Nico Collins had a great season going last year, wide receiver one through the first 5 weeks, and then gets hurt. So fantasy wise, he's still going to be a very valuable commodity, depending on where you get him. He's either late first round, early second rounds where he's going. Jaden Higgins, I think is going to be a very good choice somewhere late in the draft. Something that you can take a flyer on. Rookie wide receivers, they take a little longer to come in, especially when they're new to an offense. But yeah, CJ Stroud, hopefully the bounce back. I mean, his season wasn't absolutely terrible. It was just, not the production he had from his first season. He only had 400 less passing yards, 3 less touchdowns, but the interceptions went up with that lack of offensive line. Took more sacks too. So I think it's just trying to get to a better system here. And moving on to the Indianapolis Colts, who have another year, another quiet offseason. Their big addition was getting Daniel Jones from the Giants and they picked up Charvarius Ward from the
Mhm.
Niners. Nice secondary help, and Cam buying him from the safety spot. Uh, they also go get stud tight end Tyler Warren from Penn State, number one pick in the draft. Get another DN JT two in the draft as well. But the big question is, can Anthony Richardson finally have consistent play? He's been bogged down with injuries, whether that's self inflicted or the coaches just don't know how to use him. Daniel Jones isn't going to bring you wins automatically, but can he be a guy that can step in while they still help this raw talent of a quarterback in Anthony Richardson understand the NFL? Had a terrible idea last year of just kind of throwing Anthony Richardson in, and they should have stepped back, let a veteran quarterback. I believe Flacco was on the team last year. I'm not 100% sure. I know they had somebody veteran that should have been playing there. I guess they just want to have a wasted season. But for the past, he's very raw, and he hasn't. Yeah, first preseason game, he misses a key adjustment and gets absolutely hammered and dislocates a pinky. He's already hurt. So I don't know. They're going to have a great season ahead of them. They have talent there with Pittman at wide receiver, Jonathan Taylor, one of the better running backs in the league. But Steve, can they salvage somewhat of a okay season this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really all revolves around Anthony Richardson, and I don't think anyone actually really knows what's gonna happen there. Uh, yeah, that play that he dislocated his finger, if there is a silver lining to it, very reminiscent of Andrew Luck's preseason first game, getting just absolutely decked, but that's probably the only thing you could really take out of that. Um, yeah, I mean, I really liked Tyler Warren coming out. Um, the iffy potential like QB play this year will cap his upside, but as anyone who's listened to a couple of podcasts know, I'm definitely in on rookie tight ends now, so he'd probably be one of the ones that I would target later in the rounds because you don't have to spend up for him, and while he probably doesn't have the exact receiving upside that Brock Bowers had last year, uh, he definitely has potential to really just way outperform his average draft position right now. Um, yeah, like you said, still like young, developing wide receiver core. I think we kind of already know who Michael Pittman is, but I like Josh Downs. He kind of broke out a little bit last year. Granted, most of his big games were with Joe Flacco, so we'll see if Anthony Richardson can get a connection with him. Adonai Mitchell, it's his second year. We'll see if he can grow into a bigger role. And yeah, I don't know. I'm really not expecting much from this team. Like they'd be lucky to get a wild card spot, and even then, I really don't see them doing too much, honestly.
Yeah, there's not really a position outside of maybe running back where they really excel in. They have names on that D line: Kawhi Payne, Latu, DeForest Buckner. Just the injuries, the lack of consistency from them. They're probably going to have pretty mediocre season, honestly. But that's they got a bright future with their tight end Tyler Warren. Brock Bowers was just a vacuum in Las Vegas. There wasn't really a lot of other targets to have out there. You have Michael Pittman, Josh Downs in Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson still raw. Can maybe does Daniel Jones
Well, the good
give
thing
him?
about Anthony Richardson this year is that his draft value is not so overly inflated like it was last year. You could take him with like one of the last picks in your draft, and he's still got all the upside that he had last year and the year before, but you just don't have to pay a big premium for him. So if you're if you didn't spend a high pick on one of the top tier guys, you could always take Anthony Richardson as a flyer, and he's still got that upside.
Yeah, true. Rushing touchdowns are a very big uh, thing for a quarterback. Jalen Hurts over the years maintained that. Josh Allen really big there. So as long as he can stay healthy, he's still great value. But that's the thing: can he stay healthy? Now going over to Jacksonville, who had another disappointing season with their star quarterback. They did bring in new head coach Liam Cohen uh, to see what he can do with these guys. They also go get a couple of guys in the free agency here: Emmanuel Ogba, Jordan Lewis, cornerback. Not a lot of big names here. Diami Brown, I guess, coming over from his once good season in Washington. But uh, big play was getting Travis Hunter in the draft, trading up to get him, get that dual wide receiver cornerback. They're gonna let him play both positions. It looks like just see how it goes first, and then they also get Bashal Tootin running back in the fourth round, who's been making some splashes there. But Steve, this could be a make or break year for Trevor Lawrence. Uh, he's got paid, but he hasn't really put in a bunch of results in consistently. He'll have stretches where he looks great, but he'll have stretches where he looks terrible. So,
Hmm.
what can the Jacksonville Jaguars do this season to possibly win the AFC South?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, I think he's got to take a step up with adding in Travis Hunter. Um, they really, he's got the weapons he needs now. There's not really much excuse. Um, speaking on Travis Hunter, it's like you said, they are planning on playing him both ways. I've heard that Liam Cohen saying he wants Travis Hunter on the offense like 80% of the time. It's which really is perfectly fine. Even last year, Lad McConkey only had 3 games where he had more than 80% of the snaps on offense. So if Travis Hunter is able to average 80%, uh, even like 75% of offensive snaps, then he should still be a good uh, fantasy option. It's just playing both sides. That's just extra time, more likely to get injured. But he's definitely a big jump ball guy, so I think he could be a serious red zone target. Uh, I'm thinking he could get like 10 plus touchdowns. Probably not like a ton of yardage, but I think Liam Cohen would like him as his Mike Evans role for this team. This running back room, it's it's definitely going to be running back by committee. You really don't know who's going to be taking the majority of snaps. Yeah, Travis Etienne had a really down year last year. Uh, like you said, they brought in Tootin. Tank Bigsby showed out a little bit last year, showed that he can be a good runner. So it's really muddy waters there, but that's kind of what you want for fantasy. It brings down the draft value. You can take your shot on any of those guys. Um, but yeah, that offensive line, it's all right, nothing to brag about. Uh, yeah, they lost Mitch Morse to retirement, Brandon Scherf. It's I don't know, and the defense, it's all right, but I don't think it's as top tier. I really don't see them really going to be able to dethrone the Texans for this division. I don't think, but really, I think you're hoping first year with Liam Cohen, he's able to set a good foundation for this team for the future, and Trevor Lawrence is actually going to be able to take a step up and actually make you feel confident that he could be your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, fantasy wise, Travis Hunter, Brian Thomas Jr., good picks there. PTJ,
Mm.
top pick here in the draft. Travis Hunter, we'll see. It's you're gonna take a risk on him depending on how he plays with the snap count with the wide receiver. If he's gonna
Now,
primarily play offense,
if you're in a league with individual defensive players, then Travis Hunter is like an actual cheat code because you could put him in at corner and he's playing wide receiver. So that's where he's at his best. But
I mean, great value. And then, like, if you got a league with kickers, I mean, Cam Little, 70-yarder in the preseason. He's out, doesn't even have to barely get across the 50, and he's in field goal range, it looks like. But they, they got some good guys on defense. Eric Armstead, I believe Travon Walker, maybe he finally chose number one pick status. But they just need stability at quarterback. I think Liam Cohen's just gonna bring in a good offensive scheme from Tampa Bay. So I see a lot of play action, a lot of quick routes, and some deep balls to BTJ at certain points of the game. And moving on to our last team in the AFC South, the Tennessee Titans. In the second season with Brian Callahan, disappointing last year. Will Levis experience is just as funny as you can get. He's throwing deep balls, or though he's throwing the ball from his knees to the defense, looking shocked, like how did that happen? Uh, but they went in and got more veteran presence this year. They get Tyler Lockett from Seattle, Van Jefferson at wide receiver. They go pick up Kevin Zeitler, Dan Moore Jr. for that offensive line. They go pick up some linebackers, Lorenzo Carter, Draymond Jones, Cody Barton. Get Xavier Woods at safety. Got a new special teams room with Joey Sly and Johnny Hecker. But the big got their hopefully franchise quarterback Cam Ward from Miami, their first pick. Uh, then they also got another offense line, Olufemi Ubudeho, offensive linebacker in the second round. Uh, Later in the draft, wide receiver Eric Ayumanor. I believe he's a very good wide receiver, especially in that room where it's kind of Calvin Ridley or bust. I did lose Nick Westbrook-Akine to the free agency. So they have some stay. And if you've been with us for the last couple years, uh, Patrick last year said it was going to be a Calvin Ridley year, was completely wrong. This year is the Calvin Ridley year. I've been hearing nothing but positive things about the connection between Cam Ward and Calvin Ridley in practice. It looks like Calvin Ridley is finally getting back into NFL shape from his suspension from gambling a couple of years ago. He's finally got his sea legs back. Their running back room was a little light now that Tajay Spears got hurt. So it looks like Tony Pollard's going to be taking bulk of the carries while Tajay works his way back into the uh, physical work back to the field. But I like where they're going here. I'm a big Cam Ward guy. I think he's one of the better He's a great quarterback prospect in a bad quarterback class. It just I like that's how much I like him. I think that some people don't like his nonchalant kind of play. I think that he kind of fits what a quarterback in the future is now, a mobile guy that not necessarily going to be Mr. Pocket Presence, but with his ability to make plays outside of it, I think could be a great way to open up an offense that could be that's been stagnant. Always already talking about how they need to get better, and that's what you want to see from a leader, especially a rookie leader. So, Steve, Tennessee's future is looking bright. What can you say about this team that could they possibly contend for this crown in the next couple of years?
Uh, I mean, maybe next year if they've got a good draft class, but yeah, this year it's just all about Cam Ward. You want to see what he's got. Uh, like you said, he was probably like the only true like round one quarterback prospect in this draft. Um, he's a gunslinger, so there's good and bad with that. Um, and like you said, it seems like he's got a good connection with Ridley, especially if you take stock in what they did in that first preseason game. It really looked like he was looking towards him a lot. Um, yeah, like you said, Spears is injured, so Tony Pollard is definitely going to get a bump, especially at the very beginning of the season. Um, well, last year, it a lot of people were expecting it to be closer to like a 50-50 split between those two guys, but it was definitely leaning more on the Pollard side. And with this injury, it just makes it even more clear that Pollard is going to be the main guy in that committee, and that Spears will probably just be the guy to come in on third down every once in a while to relieve some of the load. Um, like you said, Alec Iomaner, I think there's good potential there. Um, I mean, like you said, behind Ridley and Lockett, I feel like it's his job to lose as that third wide receiver. Depending on how uh the Titans want to run Lockett, the two wide receiver sets, I feel like he could work his way in on there too. But yeah, not expecting too much from this team. Just wanna see these young players show out a little bit.
Yeah, very young players showing out. Fantasy wise, like I said, Calvin Ridley here. I'm looking Calvin Ridley, especially where he's at value wise. You can get him later in drafts. They're going to probably be behind a lot of games with their young team, so they're going to have to throw the ball. So I believe that's going to help his value. Tight end Chig Quanquo. I mean, if you need a flyer tight end somewhere middle of the season, I think he'd be a value pickup depending on matchups. Their defense is got names Jeffrey Simmons, one of the most disruptive ends in the league. Devondre Sweat, their first round pick from last year's, building on his experience. L'Jarius Sneed they traded for last season as well. So they have names on that defense. Is just putting it together. And they have their young offensive line, J.C. Latham from last year, Peter Skoronski, Kevin Zeitler coming in to shore up. So they'll have I believe, better talent offensive wise and defensive wise than last year. So they're
It's
building.
hard to get much worse than what Levis did last
Yeah.
year.
Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, whoever they stuck back there, was pretty uneventful. So the sky's the limit with this team, and just building with that. Now going to the other South NFC, the Atlanta Falcons, building on last year. Kirk Cousins, what a disappointment. They pay him all that money just for him to look like a shell of himself. They go to Penix late in the season, who shows some flashes for their first round pick. They were kind of hoping that he'd be able to sit behind him for 4 years. Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers type of experience, sit behind a veteran. But he showed that he was, he had some potential there. He's kind of almost ready for the big time, but he is now his full fledged starter in this league. So we'll see what happens with him. They also had a pretty uneventful offseason. They Leonard Floyd, Morgan Fox, Jordan Fuller. Their big pick was Jalen Walker in the first round. They also traded up to get James Pierce Jr. So their D line, that's been one of their big issues they addressed in the draft. We'll see if those additions, they're going to be young. Uh, so they're going to have some blemishes there. They need some work, but they finally addressed it. But Steve, I think everybody's been wondering, is this finally the Kyle Pitts season?
I mean, eh, probably not. I I think Kyle Pitts' problem has been partially the team not being able to use him to his full extent, but also I don't know, he just doesn't seem motivated. A lot of times he's out there, seems like he's taking plays off. He'll show a flash and then the next play he's just jogging out there. Really not a dedicated blocker in the run game either. Like you're a tight end, that's part of your job. Bijan Robinson making Kyle Pitts' chip blocks look like a toddler. Just it's maybe if he gets traded to another team and a coach can actually get him to reach his full potential, he could do something. But on the Falcons, it's hard to see him actually really reaching the full potential that people expected when he was drafted. But yeah, this year it's going to be dependent on Michael Penix. What's he going to look like? It looked like he had a decent relationship with Drake London at the end of the season last year. Granted, just 3 game sample size, but um yeah, probably not going to be taking Penix in any of my fantasy drafts. Um Yeah, Bijan, he's locked in. Everyone knows what they're expecting from him. And like you said, their biggest flaw on defense was the edge rusher position. They double dipped in the first round. I mean, I feel like they gave up a little much to trade back up for James Pierce Jr., giving up their first next year, but they he's got plenty of potential there too. Really fast, definitely uh at the very least a really good rotational edge rusher. Will definitely need to develop in the run game, but that's kind of also why you got Jalen Walker too. A little bit of a chess piece there. We'll see how much he's actually going to play at linebacker. Probably prefer him more at the edge rusher position, but yeah, I think this is a good solid team, but still probably not a Super Bowl contender. I could see him making the playoffs, but yeah, I don't know. What are you feeling about this team, Midge?
I mean, the NFC South is probably one of the most open divisions in probably the most open division in this league. You know, this they kind of they just kind of eat each other most of the year, and then whoever holds off at the end of the season wins by like one game. I mean, last year it was pretty hectic at the end of the year. Tampa Bay was kind of throwing wins away. Uh, so there's always a chance they got the talent. Honestly, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, if he could ever just consistently put it together. They don't have and Bijan, Darnell Mooney, their breakout guy last year, is going
Yeah,
to be hurt.
that is a
So we
bummer
don't
for the
know.
offense.
People are thinking Ray McLeod could fill that Darnell Mooney slot, but you know he's filling there until Darnell comes back. They said he'll be back this season. We just don't know when. But honestly, they have the talent, and I like Michael Penix. I wish the Vegas Raiders would have picked him last year. We get Brock Bowers, but how could I hate on that? But they have the talent. They just got to put it together. We'll see if Raheem Morris can be a really good head coach and put put a team together. Moving on to Carolina, the Panthers. Another, okay off season. They definitely needed to address some positions on defense. They get Trayvon Morig, safety. They get Christian Rosenboom, linebacker, nose tackle Bobby Brown. They bring back corpse of Hunter Renfro, who didn't even know that he was retired by people already. But They also in the draft they go get Tedero McMillan, get another big body receiver for Bryce to throw to. So we'll see there. Nick Scorton, edge rusher in the second round. Travis's brother Trevor Etienne in the fourth round running back, but they're built like the year before. I said that head coach was making a culture change there. There's going to be a rebuilding year. It was nice to see Bryce Young have a good finish to the year last season. Looked really good at the end of the year, so there's some confidence to build on. They go get Rico Daddle in the to help that running back room with Chuba Hubbard, who was a absolute star last season. The thing is that reports saying Legette's not really holding up his end of the his pick last year. Will he? Is he kind of a rotational player now? Now that Teddero's there, still got Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker looking good as well. So they got some pieces there. Defensively, that's their big issue. They had a solid defense a couple of years ago, and then they just lost a bunch of pieces. So that's something they need to improve on. There's no big names here that's gonna wow you, and you're like, well, maybe this guy, can't count on J.C. Horn to just lock down everybody every game. I think they need to address the pass rush. Derek Brown's a great DN, but not a game wrecker. So I think they either need to address that in this off season, or maybe trade one of their pieces for a guy, asking out. But they are again. I think this division is really hard. Outside of one team, we'll talk about. I think the Panthers are also a contender if they play it right, playing on the offense, making the offense. I think the offense is going to definitely have to carry their weight. Can Bryce Young adjust and improve on his end of the last season? But Steve, you see anything different from there?
I don't know. A lot of what you said. Defense last year was one of the worst, if not the worst, in the league. And while they did make some attempts to shore up some holes, I did like that they brought in Merrig. Um, yeah, keeping J.C. Horn. Really liked the Nick Scorton pick. I was high on him coming into the draft. Um, I don't think the defense is going to take a huge step up. They're still going to be a bottom half team. So that's really what you want for fantasy. They're going to have to throw the ball a lot. So, uh, to keep up with a lot of these teams, yeah, like you said too, Bryce Young had a great end to the season last year after having a horrible start. Getting benched for Dalton may have been the smartest move that they did for him. Let him learn behind him, and yeah, I mean, almost coming back to win against the Eagles. If Leggett just hadn't dropped that pass, they probably could have won that. Um, but yeah, really ending the season, last three games, not throwing a pick, 7 touchdowns, and yeah, bringing in McMillan. You're hoping he can really build on that. And yeah, McMillan, big body guy. He can be the jump ball guy, but also seems like he's got the little bit of wiggle to be able to still separate and run routes really effectively. Um, so he should be a good pick for fantasy. A lot of upside with this defense. Leggett, I mean, he's got all the physical tools. It's those drops have just been a big hindrance on him. He just needs to spend every day of practice on that jugs machine for and after regular practice. He needs to learn how to catch the ball. And yeah, Thielen, I mean, Bryce Young already showed that he likes to throw to him. So the 35-year-old wide receiver, if he's got any bit of juice in the tank, he still could be fantasy relevant this year. And maybe not quite in the similar vein, but Chuba Hubbard is never someone you're going to be drafting in fantasy and you're going to be looking at your lineup going like, yes, I've got Chuba Hubbard on my team. He's a solid running back. He's not going to be an elite guy, but he's going to get a decent amount of volume. Um, it does bring it into question a little bit since they brought in Dowdle. It seems like they're going to try to work him in more as the pass catching back, but he was brought in on a 1-year deal. So financially, they're not committed to him, unlike Chuba Hubbard, who they just gave a big contract to. So yeah, he should be solid. Um, uh, was it second year tight end? Sanders, he could take a step up if this offense really gets going. He could be a late round sleeper, but yeah, I don't know. It's really intriguing for fantasy because, like I said, the defense should still be pretty bad, and for the most part, the most of these guys who are going to be contributors are going to be pretty late round picks. McMillan is probably going to be the highest one, and you're probably not going to have to take him till like the like fifth or sixth round. So I really like a lot of the players on this team for value.
Yeah, Dave Canales, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer offensive coordinator, definitely like to have a pass catching specialist there. While they're Rico Daddle, they kind of do a two. I think he's going to be third down specialist, not a full on 2-man running back committee there. I think
Hmm.
definitely Chuba Hubbard's going to take over. Jatavion Sanders, uh, young tight end. Tommy Tremble, hasn't been the guy there, so Jatavion definitely has a lot of room. But yeah, I'm excited, for Tetero. Also, another pick that I kind of wanted, but they didn't go with Tetero this year for me. So they have a lot of young talent there. So young team, young coach, still improving every year. And now moving on to the only team in this division that I have absolutely no faith in because the walls have finally started crumbling down and the rent is finally due for those New Orleans Saints. Of course, their car retires, medical injury doesn't come back. They're old, they're in cap hell, and they can't really do a lot. A lot of their picks haven't really worked out. Their um, tackle they picked a couple years ago can't seem to not Trevor Penning can't seem to not hold everybody. But this year they go another offseason with cap strapped money. They go get a new head coach, Kellen Moore, whole new coach is there. Brandon Staley, defensive coordinator. Doug Nussmeyer, offensive coordinator. I, we saw what Brandon Staley was like in Los Angeles as a head coach, and before that, looks like as a defensive coordinator, kind of more benefited from Aaron Donald being on the Rams than him being an actual good coordinator. But they go get Cam Akers, Brandon Cooks, Donovan Peoples Jones. Go get Justin Reed. Not a lot of they're veterans, but nothing that's gonna make this season anything but what it is. It's gonna be terrible. They go get Kelvin Banks Jr. tackle in the first round. Tyler Shuck quarterback in the second round. Looks like he is competing with uh, Rattler for that starting quarterback position. They're probably going to go the Rattler early, and then they can go the Shuck later in the season. But honestly, Steve, can you find any positives about this team for this upcoming season?
Uh, yeah, no, it's not. It's looking pretty bad. I'd say the one bright spot on this team, especially for fantasy, is Alvin Kamara. This team's going to be garbage. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. Alvin Kamara, he's going to be catching a lot of passes. Uh, Even without Derek Carr, the check down machine, there's just not enough talent in the receiving game here for them to really need to pass it to anyone else. And Shaheed coming off of his injury, we'll see what he looks like when he comes back. And Olave, he's just like the scariest pick right now. It feels like he's in that same boat as Tua, where if he takes one more bad hit, his NFL career might just be over. So I'm just completely avoiding Olave in drafts. Um, like I said, I think the only person I would actually want on this team is Alvin Kamara. But I did like the Kelvin Banks pick. Hopefully he can be stalwart for the future. Hopefully they got their two bookend tackles with Banks and was it the last year Fuaga? Yeah, so
Felice
hopefully
Fuaga.
hopefully that's the building blocks for the future. But right now, this year, this team, it's if you're a Saints fan, I just wouldn't watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough year. You're hoping they tank, get another early pick. They're definitely hoping either. We'll see if they start looking forward to the 2027 draft. Arch Manning, possibly in New Orleans. You know, there's family pedigree there with his grandfather Archie Manning, former Saints quarterback. They got some good. Kelvin Banks Jr. tackle, Tylese Fuaga. Those should be some good bookends to that O line. So it's just working inward for them there. So they have foundational pieces there. But yeah, unfortunately, Chris Olave, talented wide receiver, just been given too many hospital balls, and I don't know if Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shook are going to be even better about keeping his safety a priority. I think you hope that Kellen Moore comes in, makes this probably quick pass game, probably quicker, get the balls out of his hands of these young quarterbacks so they don't have to make these long decisions. But they're contender for probably the worst team this season. So probably going to be a race to the bottom for them. And moving on to the last year's division winner, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As we said earlier, Liam Cohen moved over to Jacksonville, so they got a new offensive coordinator and Josh Grizzard. He was the pass game coordinator last year, so they're going to have a new offensive coordinator. They also quiet off season. They pick up Hassan Reddick from the Jets, Anthony Walker Jr.,
Yeah, and he
Kendall
was one of
Vindor.
the first moves for free agency, so they definitely made him a priority. They
Yeah.
really wanted him.
The defense is probably the weak. There's definitely the weakness of this team. Their offense got more firepower. They get a Mecca Ibuka in the first round. It looks like he's gonna be a contributor early with Chris Godwin being out hurt. They also had Jalen McMillan from last year who popped a lot. Still got that stalwart Mike Evans, Baker Mayfield. Well, personal. I'm a personal fan of Baker. Loved him in Cleveland. Glad to see he has finally. I can safely say he's a top 10 quarterback in this league now. But with the new offensive coordinator, we'll see how that works out with their offense. Bucky Irving, rookie from last year, really popped off. Pat was high on him as well. Rashad White, he's past game catch. Maybe he'll see some play there, but
Also injured during
uh,
the preseason, so
it looks like Bucky's going to be fed the ball. Sean Tucker, if you dynasty fantasy, somebody wants to take a handcuff. Sean Tucker, running back room there, but their defense definitely. still needs some improvement, especially the secondary. They got Whitfield Jr., the safety there. He's going to be a nice stalwart there, and getting Reddick for the rush with Diaby, Yaya Diaby, and Villavea. So their D line's fine. Levante David, the linebacker, is still very trusted, but their secondary is their issue. Um, they just need to be more consistent there, but definitely trying to repeat their division win last year. But what do you see from this Tampa Bay team, Steve, that says that they could repeat?
Yeah, I mean, the offense is solid. This is Baker's third offensive coordinator in 3 years, and I don't think it's a coincidence that every the past couple years their offensive coordinator has gotten a head coaching job afterwards. I think Baker's proven that he can get it done with whoever the offensive coordinator is, especially since Grizzard was the passing game coordinator here. He already has familiarity with Baker and this team. So I think it's gonna be a lot of the same for this team. Uh, I there's probably should be a little bit of touchdown regression with Baker Mayfield. He's probably not gonna get to the 40 passing touchdowns he had last year. Um, but still, he should be a really good option. I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 35 touchdowns at the end of the year, like 45 100 yards. So I think he's as solid as can be. Um, they just taking Ibuka in the first round just really solidified this wide receiver room. Maybe one of the best overall wide receiver rooms in terms of depth, uh, especially since you got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin either aging or coming back from injury, and they still got McMillan too. He could still be a contributor. There's a lot to like on this team, and um, it's really I think the biggest question is when Chris Godwin comes back, what kind of role is he going to have? How is he going to look coming back from injury? Uh, if Ibuka just shows out at the beginning of the season, he might just have the starting role locked in. So it's really a good problem to have. Is so many good wide receivers. It's only going to benefit Baker and this offense. Um, like you said, the problem with the defense, they do need the a little bit of depth and more consistent play in the secondary, but they did double dip at corner with Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish, so we'll see if either of those guys are able to step up. Um, I think they have Morrison as their starting nickel corner at the moment, if I'm not mistaken. But um, also outside of Levante David, the linebackers could use a little bit of work. But overall, it's still a really solid team. And if I'm putting money down, the Bucks are who I'm betting on to win this division.
Yeah, it's going to be a dogfight for this division, but Tampa Bay set up with the best. They're going to be the pick to repeat. Atlanta's been the trendy one, with all their talent. I'm sure some people think Carolina could sneak in just, if they win a couple division games. They're not supposed to. But yeah, that's the NFC South. And now we are moving over to the West, starting in the AFC. What a surprise. Denver Broncos, uh, after getting off Russell Wilson's terrible contract and being in cap hell, they get Bo Nix, who people weren't exactly high on. They thought it was kind of a reach early in the draft. Didn't think he was a first round talent. And wow, did Sean Payton show that, yeah, he's that damn good of a head coach. really outperformed everybody's expectations last year, mine included. I thought they were going to be absolutely awful, but they are just going to be building on what they did last year, 10-win season. They go get J.K. Dobbins, veteran running back. They get a stud tight end, Evan Ingram, free agency. They go pick some good defensive players from San Francisco and Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga to add to that already stacked defense. And they get Jade Barron, cornerback in the first round, second round pick RJ Harvey, running back too. So they've been doing all the right things, and they still don't even have money. So, Steve, could the Denver Broncos possibly make a push at winning this division this year with the incumbent Kansas City?
I think so, and I think I'd even take it a step further. I think this team might be a dark horse candidate to make the Super Bowl and even possibly win it. This defense is probably going to be top three in the league, if not the best. There's really not too many holes, and they brought in Dre Greenlaw, Hufunga. If those guys and the rest of the team on defense are able to stay healthy, then it's gonna be tough sledding playing against the Broncos. Any fantasy player I got up against them, I got low expectations. And then especially bringing in Jade Barron, he's probably gonna be playing a lot in the nickel, which really isn't a bad thing. I think that's probably where he's best at. He played outside corner at Texas last year, so he's got that in his belt. Um, but yeah, I think Jade Barron has potential to be like a really, really good uh, nickel cornerback. And yeah, a lot of hype around RJ Harvey when he was taken. A lot of people expecting him to be kind of the workhorse back almost. Um, just based off of what the running back depth chart looked like at the time of the draft. He was 25 when he was drafted, so it does cap his upside uh, for dynasty fantasy. You're not really sure if you're probably going to want to re-sign him after his rookie deal, but I think at this point we know how Sean Payton likes to have his running back room, and it's always going to be a committee. Um, like you said, they brought in J.K. Dobbins. I think he could be a sleeper pick for fantasy in the real late rounds. I think they're definitely going to be using him. I mean, he showed he's still got some juice with the Chargers last year. He started off really hot and then just got injured. I think Estime and McLaughlin are still going to see their a little bit of touches too. So I mean, out of all the rookie running backs, RJ Harvey, other than uh other than Genty, Harvey probably had the most hype coming out of the draft, but he might be more on the lower end for me at this point. Um Maybe next year, but he's probably not the one I'd be taking. Um yeah, they re-signed Uh, oh man, completely blanking on their wide receiver's name right now.
Cortland
Um,
Sutton.
yeah, Sutton. He's gonna be solid. Not gonna have ton of upside, but you know what you're getting with him. He's gonna be the bona fide number one on their team. Um, they're saying they're gonna get Mims in on more snaps, so there's potential there. He's always had the athletic upside, and they like to use him in those gadget plays, the end arounds. Um, so we'll see. He could be a good dart throw later in the draft. But yeah, this team, It's gonna be tough sledding because they're in probably one of the toughest divisions in football, but like I said, I'm really liking this team as a legit Super Bowl contender.
I mean, yeah, defense is top top three. Depending on who you ask. Some people think they're the best in the league. They have a poor man's David Montgomery Gibbs connection there, possibly with Dobbins and Harvey. Just the explosiveness is Harvey could be nice change of pace there. Kamara, Mark Ingram, and the Saints was Sean Payton's last good running back duo. But they have, their wide receiver core isn't the best in the league, but they have a solid one in Cortland Sutton. Uh, Troy Franklin has a connection with Bo Nix from Oregon, but having Evan
They brought
Ingram, I
in
think is
Pat
going to
Bryant too, so he could be a sneaky wide receiver contributor
yeah.
too.
I think Evan Ingram is going to be definitely one of their bigger acquisitions this year, just being how physical he is and how great of a route runner he is for a tight end. Could really help Bo Nix just keep improving as well. He didn't. He's got to keep. Sean Page is going to keep preaching to him. Take care of the ball. Don't put it into too many risky situations. And that defense is going to help a lot of them win a lot of games. But moving on to the 9-time consecutive AFC West division winners and recent Super Bowl losers, but 3 years in a row, Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't really have to do a lot. If you make the Super Bowl, you don't really try to tinker with success here. They go get Jalen Moore, tackle from the Niners, who was backing up Trent Williams. They get Jerry Tillery, Mike Edwards, safety, Christian Fulton as a corner. And they also get Josh Simmons, tackle in the first round, who some people say if he didn't get hurt in college could have been a easy top 10 pick. So what a lucky pick for them. Get a possibly stud tackle late in the first round. Ashton Gillott edge in the third round. Uh, Jalen Royals, another wide receiver in the fourth. But it's going to be another year. Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league. There's no debate to be had of that. I don't see how people can debate that when you've gone to 3 straight Super Bowls, even with the poor numbers. Poor numbers being, better than league average. But is this could be the last ride for Kelsey? Could this be his last season? Possibly. Andy Reid, possibly last season. Um, that's all conjecture there, but I think what's going to really help is if Rashee Rice, he's not going to get his meeting, his discipline hearing till late in September. So it looks like
Mm.
he's going to be available for the first 4 weeks. So he's going to be available early. Can he come back from his injury? Maybe he's going to come back, be a little bit rusty, but as soon as that could be a problem. If he comes back and he finally gets good cooking and then he gets suspended, could really harsh his uh, vibes. So fantasy wise, Rice would have been fine if they suspended him early, but I think that might hurt him. So I think if you want a wide receiver, you go get Worthy, who showed at the end of the year really started connecting with Mahomes. And if you watched the last quarter of the Super Bowl, really started to show out there, while the Eagles were celebrating on the sidelines. But, Kelsey was talking about how he wasn't really focused as he should have been in the offseason. He's coming back apparently skinnier than he's ever been, so it looks like he might be getting his stamina back. But the defense is going to be solid again. Uh, Chris Jones, always great. Trent McDuffie, their picks have been really hidden. So it's just the question is that is there any reason that you should pick against the Chiefs this year other than you just want to do something different?
No, you should not be betting against the Chiefs, especially since they're still gonna have the refs on their side, no doubt about that. But I mean, will they have the only two losses that like they had last year? I don't think so. They had a lot of one-score games. Once again, bailed out by the refs on a lot of those. But I don't see them quite living up to the record they had last year. But they're still really solid team, great coach, best quarterback in the league. Um, and I mean, coming back to what you said, the things that Kelsey's been saying how past couple years he's been focusing too much on the commercials, on acting. This is the year where he really brings it together. He's getting serious. I don't know if I really trust him, especially at this age, especially since they've also uh, been bringing in uh, young wide receiver talent. Like you said, Xavier Worthy, year two, there's a good chance he adds to the role that he had last year. Is a little bit more than just a deep threat and the end around guy. He was good last year, but he could still definitely room to develop. Like you said, Rice, the suspension's gonna come in later in the year. Um, And yeah, like you said, in the draft, Josh Simmons, he's got a lot of talent. The injury is why he slid. And Jalen Roy is a lot of the draft stuff that I'd heard about him. A lot of people were surprised that he lasted to the fourth round. So he could um break into the starting lineup when that suspension comes in. It's probably more of a dynasty pick. Really not looking at him for redraft. Uh, I mean, Brashard Smith in the seventh round. Like he he had some good tape at SMU, but we'll see. Um, if you've listened to any of our podcasts before, I'm not a big Pacheco guy, so I'd probably still avoiding him in fantasy. They re-signed Hunt for a year. Uh, who really knows how the backfield's gonna shake out there? But yeah, the defense is still gonna be solid. The offense, with everyone healthy and everyone actually playing, uh, could uh be a little bit more reminiscent of the Patrick Mahomes of old, but with how good their defense is, they probably really won't need to be in those shootouts. So still probably going to be avoiding Mahomes in drafts, even though he's one of the best quarterbacks. They're probably not going to need him to air it out too much. Also, the reason why I'll be avoiding Kelsey with the competition there too. But yeah, there's definitely still one of the Super Bowl favorites. I don't think you can ever really bet against him as long as Mahomes is there and Andy Reid.
I mean, yeah, if you're not, you don't believe Kelsey's been really taking it seriously. They still have Noah Gray, who showed that he could really, not, fill prime Kelsey's shoes, but could fill a pretty good void there. Hollywood Brown again has been hurt with an ankle injury, so Jalen Royals could be up earlier than what the suspension, just because Hollywood Brown seems to always be carrying some kind of nagging injury. But they're they've been in the Super Bowl the last 3 years. It's going to be really hard to say that they couldn't make it again. But 4 years in a row, Buffalo did that back in the '90s and didn't win anything. So it's not impossible, but don't put any money against them. That's for sure. And moving on to my team, the Vegas Raiders, and I can only say has been one of the more quicker rebrands I've ever seen. When they brought in Pete Carroll and traded for Geno Smith as new quarterback, they go get Alex Kappa from the Bengals guard. They fill in. They get four new linebacker spots, which are Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, Devin White, and Jalen Smith coming in there. They're really trying to beef up that linebacker after Spillane left. Uh, Jeremy Chin fills the spot. Trayvon Morig left. Uh, Still, the secondary is going to be an issue. Jack Jones is gone. They bring in Eric Stokes, who isn't exactly a competent cornerback. But I think the big story was Ashton Genty in the first round. Um, People love him. I'll be first one to tell you I wasn't exactly happy with the draft of Genty. I've been a big proponent of running backs are kind of the most expendable position in the league, where you can get a solid running back later in the draft, you can get a solid back later in every other draft. So why waste a top 10 pick on a running back? But I don't run the Raiders, so unfortunately they don't need to listen to me. They also go get Jack Beck in the second round, Darian Porter, another solid. He's not Richard Sherman, but he's built like him, 6'3", tall, lengthy cornerback. And camp standout Dante Thornton Jr. in the fourth round, looking like he's going to be fitting in the wide receiver 3 spot there, or a wide receiver 2, I guess, but third option behind Browers and Myers. I think that we're making solid steps towards becoming a good team, a possible contender in the AFC West in a couple of years. It's still early, of course, and you got to see what kind of uh, Pete Carroll's, oldest coach in the league now. He's might have the energy of a young guy, but he's still old. And Geno Smith, while he resurrected his career, he's a above average quarterback. It depends where you want to put him. Is he the top? Is he 16th? Is he in the top half of the league? It just depends where you want to see him. But they need to work on the O line. They signed Colt Miller back, but they still have some holes, and that's what's going to open up the running game. So fantasy wise, Ashton Genty is probably going to be a great addition. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball a lot, play action off that. I think prime Russell Wilson years they were helping. Prime Russell Wilson was throwing the ball a lot, but early Russell Wilson, when they were handing the ball off to beast mode a lot, controlling the time of possession and trying to beat you with keeping your possessions low. But Steve, what can you say about these Raiders?
I'm just gonna say this is the first year of the rebuild for him. This year, Keach, Pete Carroll's main focus should be establishing the culture and trying to see what you get out of these young guys. Like you said, Ashton Genty, a lot of hype around him. Um, I mean, in fantasy, usual one of your best bets are rookie running backs taken in the early first round because they're guaranteed a lot of volume and they're still young, so very durable, probably not good, likely to be injured, but I don't know. Don't want to take too much stock in preseason, but that first preseason game against the Seahawks, playing against the second stringers, it did not look good. And while I wasn't too high on the Raiders' offensive line, that definitely maybe put it into light that they've got a little bit more work to do than I expected. Um, Yeah, Gino, he's a solid quarterback, but probably not gonna elevate this team to be like a real playoff contender, especially considering the uh the division they're in. Their defense outside of Max Crosby is just horrendous. Losing Christian Wilkins, um, the interior defensive line doesn't look good. The linebackers not exactly inspiring confidence, and that the secondary may be one of the worst in the league in my opinion. So I have a feeling no matter how Pete Carroll's offensive philosophy usually is, I think they're gonna have to be uh passing the ball a lot. And I mean, bringing in Chip Kelly, that's what you've really liked from him in the past. He's been able to put up a lot of numbers for fantasy. So I think there definitely is a lot of optimism in this offense. Everyone knows Brock Bowers, he's a stud already coming into his second year. Um, like you said, Beck, I think he's going to end up being more of a long-term player, probably going to be sliding into the Jacoby Myers role more, being more of a slot player whenever Myers leaves. Like you said, Darian Porter, I'm pretty sure I brought him up when we were talking about the combine. He is an athletic freak. Um, the only problem was he only had 1 year of starting experience at Iowa State. He was there for 5 years, so he's not super young either, but definitely has all the athletic upside. I am a little disappointed that he went to the Raiders because he's probably gonna have to start right away, and I think he would have been better learning on the sideline his first year to really learn the position. Um, like Mitch said, Dante Thornton, he's been making waves in training camp. Uh, big speed, jump ball guy. He's going to be a deep threat. So that he'll be an interesting pick. But I mean, the Raiders, I think they're firmly at the bottom of this division, and really, I really can't see him getting much more than 8 wins.
Look, as a fan, I'd rather be underselling a team than overselling them. So if they were to break my expectations, then that's great. I'd rather undersell them. I also forgot they brought Jamal Adams in and moved him to linebacker too, because I guess the linebacker position wasn't already addressed enough. They Chip Kelly, last couple, went to head coach UCLA, was offensive coordinator for the Ohio State Buckeyes when they won last year. Um, Looks like he's going to bring a balanced offense, but as you were saying, the defense definitely the weakness of this team. So probably going to have to lean more pass heavy on certain occasions. Um, 7 wins is exactly where middle line is. They're going to be playing a last place schedule, so they're not going to be playing a lot of hard games, but they're still not going to be favored in a lot of them. But Pete Carroll and Geno Smith both signed 3-year contracts with the team, so they're here for the next 3 years. So we'll see if they can build on something and possibly be extended into the future. I think Geno is probably going to be here 3, and hopefully, if I was running the team, I'd go find a quarterback somewhere somewhere in the draft where we could sit behind him and then build in. I know people like Cam Miller, but it's preseason. He's playing against third stringers. He's going to look really good against the third stringers. And moving on to the last team at the AFC West, the Los Angeles Chargers. Great season last year. Jim Harbaugh turning this team around, really went to his run heavy system. Justin Herbert, best TD interception ratio of his career, but not the big numbers that you want. They go get Najee Harris, who immediately hurts himself with a firework, and he can't even still see. They go get Mekhi Becton, though, offensive guard, Andre James center. They did lose, unfortunately, Rashawn Slater to
Yeah.
injury, so that's unfortunate. They bring back Mike Williams. They bring back the old wide receiver crew of Mike Williams, who then retires, and Keenan Allen just re-signed with them. Uh, Dante Jackson corner, safety Tony Jefferson, but the big one was Amari and Hampton, their running back, first round pick there. I got a lot of high hopes for this guy, especially with the Najee injury. He's going to be getting a lot of volume. As you said, rookie running backs are pretty easy bet, and where he's going in 10-man drafts is early fourth round. Our league, third, probably because of the 12-man. Trey Harris in the second round. Probably going to have to take on a big role here with next to Lad McConkey. Uh, Keandre Lambert Smith, could he show some wiggle early that he can get on the field? But, they're going to be pretty run heavy again. Really rely on that running game to open up the offense. That defense is going to be solid as they always are. But they did lose Joey Bosa, who, while when he was on the field was good, but he was never on the field with his injury history. They Joe Alt's first season, showed they had unfortunately was going to be a really promising season. They would have had Joe Alt and Slater, two bookends of tackles that, unfortunately for that, won't have that. So, how many years has Khalil Mack got left at this, at his current level? I think they're going to be looking forward to filling a DN rusher spot there, probably in the draft there. I also forgot to say the Raiders also have the third most cap space coming in the future as well. But the Chargers, it just comes down to Justin Herbert's quarterback play, honestly. I'm an Oregon Duck fan. I liked him coming out of Oregon, but he's been here 5 years now, and he came out really good and has pretty much not improved since then. He's pretty much stayed the same, and his playoff losses have been absolutely horrendous. The 27-0 lead against the Jaguars just absolutely blew that one. And then his 3 interceptions against the Texans last year, a team that wasn't even having a great season. And, when the ball was in his hands, biggest moments has not come up. So, some people, love his, I could hear about his arm talent all day. He's got the arm talent. He's got the arm angles. He's got everything. What he doesn't have is the winning intangibles to win in big moments here. But could Jim Harbaugh finally maybe coach that out of him, or it's going to be another season where they're really good and another early round exit due to you gotta play a good quarterback ball in the playoffs. That's where you make your money. And that's where you get your legacy here. And 0-2 with 2 bad losses is not a great look for him. Very much reminiscent of his predecessor, Philip Rivers. So, Steve, what can you say about these Chargers and what they could improve on to maybe get some playoff success?
Yeah, that's really what it's all about. You can be great during the regular season, but it doesn't matter if you not can't perform in the playoffs. Um, yeah, let you hit on a lot of those points. It's losing Slater to that injury is a huge blow to their offensive line. Uh, or is it they might have looked like one of the best offensive lines in the league, but losing him is a huge hit, and it's a rough injury too. The torn patellar tendon is one of the hardest injuries to come back from and really return to form. So hopefully, especially after giving him a huge contract extension, making him the highest paid tackle in the league, hopefully he can come back and return to form. Um, I think that has definitely capped their upside a little bit. Um, the coaches are saying even if Najee doesn't play week one, it's there's still going to be a timeshare with Hampton there. So we'll see if they actually stick to that. I'm not really confident in the other running backs in that room. I don't know if like Vidal is gonna see any kind of significant work like week one if Harris isn't able to actually play. But they brought Najee in for a reason. So even if Hampton takes over that starting job, which I think he definitely showed a lot of potential in college, and has the potential to be a true three down back. I think he's still going to be in a timeshare with Harris, and yeah, losing Slater caps the upside for that. But I mean, they showed last year that they want to run the ball. J.K. Dobbins showed a lot of promise last year, and I think Omari and Hampton has definitely got more potential than that. So, yeah, I love taking Hampton in drafts. Um, you know what you're getting out of Lad McConkey. He's safely slid into that Keenan Allen role for Herbert. Um, but behind him, it's kind of tough to say which wide receiver is really gonna take the number two role on the team. A lot of hype around Trey Harris, like Mitch said, Keandre Lambert Smith, a later round pick who's also been getting hype lately. Um, who knows if Quentin Johnston is actually gonna develop into the first round pick that he was supposed to be, but yeah, I don't know. They just need to be more consistent. Herbert needs to show up in the playoffs. And yeah, Greg Roman, their offensive coordinator, has always been more of a run first guy. But also Lamar had his MVP year with him as his offensive coordinator. So hopefully a strong run game will help bring out um, the efficiency out of Herbert, and he's not going to have to really throw it like 40 times a game like he did in the past. Because I think that also really hurt his development. A lot of games were on his back, and yeah, I think if he just focuses on being more efficient quarterback, it's kind of a dirty word, but game manager, if he's able to manage the game a little bit better and not throw so many picks, I think this could be a really good team. Oh, and maybe a little bit of a dart throw more for Dynasty. Oronde Gadsden taken in the fifth round, tight end. Um, he's converted wide receiver to tight end, so you know he's got receiving abilities. He could be a sneaky option for Dynasty in the future if he's able to maybe improve his blocking and show that he can be an every down kind of player for this team.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the thing with Greg Roman, of offensive coordinator, he does really well when he has a quarterback that's mobile, like Kaepernick. You think Kaepernick, Lamar Jackson, really great dual threats. While Herbert's not as fast as these guys or as athletic of them, he still, can use his legs. He ran a 4.68 40. He's not, fastest guy in the world, but he's still capable of running the ball. I'm not saying let's run read option all the time, but put some plays in there. But I think there's a ceiling to the Greg Roman offense, and I think you just need some more collaboration from other people to really put in another level to this offense. Because while it is run heavy, with the lack of wide receivers outside of Lad McConkey, Quentin Johnston, also has a problem with catching the ball. Trey Harris is young. Keandre Lambert Smith's young. Keenan Allen came back. He hasn't exactly been. He's not spring chicken anymore. Didn't really have a great year at Chicago, but they are the trendy pick to dethrone the Chiefs, which is a little weird to me. Just think there's another team. I think there's another team in the division that's a better chance than the Chargers. And now moving on to the NFC West, we start in Arizona, who they're stuck at a weird impasse in their year. Kyler Murray, could this potentially be one of his final years in Arizona? He hasn't really proven that he can put a consistent season together. He either has great starts and terrible finishes, or he's just not healthy enough. They really didn't do a lot They got traded for Josh Sweat though. Bring back veteran Calais Campbell, Keem Davis Gaither coming over from Cincinnati. They get Walter Nolan D tackle in the first round, and what I think, if healthy, is the absolute steal of the draft. Will Johnson, cornerback in the second round, has been dominating in preseason and in training camp. If you take any kind of you know rep, little nuggets of things from training camp, Will Johnson possibly could be a really good lockdown corner for them. But I think the real issue is just going to be, can Kyler. He doesn't need to be running around scrambling Kyler Murray every game, but needs to show some kind of consistency and dedication to the game to where he could be your starting quarterback moving forward. They got Marvin Harrison Jr. there still, Trey McBride, James Conner, solid veteran running back, Trey Benson, who, if you ask some Arizona players, could be in for a breakout season somehow. They've been beefing up that defense, which is what's been their Achilles heel as well. But they just, they are at a weird point. They could either be sneaky good or they could be really bad. So, Steve, what do you see from this Arizona Cardinals team?
Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it's tough to say. They really loaded up on defense during the draft, taking Walter Nolan. He who showed he's got a lot of pass rush chops. You, I know you liked Will Johnson a lot. I think he's a solid corner, but the injury plus the athletic upside and his last year at Michigan didn't inspire too much confidence in him for me, but I think he could definitely be a solid starter for them. Um, yeah, offensively, Kyler's been saying he needs to be taking more of a page out of Lamar Jackson's book, scrambling a little bit more. So that's good for fantasy, but like you said, he's been really inconsistent. It's really hard to trust him. Um, Marvin Harrison Jr. really hyped up last year. Definitely overdrafted in fantasy drafts as one of the guys who took him in the second round. I could say wasn't too happy with his performances throughout the year, but uh, there there's a silver lining with that. Last year, he was targeted a lot in the red zone by Kyler Murray, so I think he's got a big chance to have double-digit touchdowns if he's able to build more and get a little bit more receptions, build on the yardage, actually be able to help the offense, not just in the red zone. If he's able to get over that 1,000-yard mark, he could be a really good receiver still. I mean, he's touted as one of the highest wide receiver prospects going into the draft last year. So I think he's still got that potential if this offense is actually rolling. You you already know what you're getting with Trey McBride. James Conner, he'll still be a solid running back. He's not going to be a sexy pick, but he showed last year that he's still got it and he can really help out your fantasy team. And like Mitch said, Trey Benson's been getting some hype from teammates. Uh, didn't really see much from him last year, but was he second or third round pick last year, so he's still got a chance to take over that running back room if James Conner goes down with injury. But other than that, there's not really too much to be excited about with the offense. I mean, Michael Wilson's still there, but you kind of already know what you're getting from him. Um, so that was really the reason why I liked Marv last year. It seemed like they should consolidate a lot of targets towards him, but uh, seemed like McBride got a lot of those. And if McBride is able to actually get more than just two touchdowns, he should absolutely be a stud and a positional advantage for you in your fantasy drafts. But yeah, I don't know. I think the Cardinals are still building up to try to be a Super Bowl contender. I see them more as like a wild card team who might get a win, but probably won't be making a big push. I think, like you said, this is kind of a make or break year for Kyler and for their coach as well, because still got questions about if he's really the guy you want to keep long term.
Yeah, I think they have a pretty good start to their season. They get to play New Orleans, Carolina, Tennessee, Indianapolis early. I think the back half is where you're gonna see they got to play Tampa, Los Angeles twice, Houston, Atlanta, Cincinnati. So could they build off something early and keep it going? But Jonathan Gannon's still there. He's still building a culture. Will they still give him enough time to keep building on it? He's got to show him something this year. I think with they got Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride, two good weapons. James Conner, solid. He's not going to have a 15 rushing yard touchdown rushing touchdown season, but he's been solid with 7, 7, and 8. So he's going to get in the end zone here. Solid pick for anybody. And if Trey Benson can show, uh, the potential that his teammates see, he could be a solid handcuff as well. Now we move on to a team who I've been high on off season now, but with their quarterback old and hurt. Los Angeles Rams, smaller offseason. They go get Devontae Adams to fill Cooper Cup's role. Uh, Other than that, DJ Humphries, David Quessenberry to fill out the depth on the O line, which has also been an issue for them health wise. They've been kind of banged up a lot. They go get, didn't have a first round pick this year. They get Terrence Ferguson, tight end in the second round. Josiah Stewart, edge rusher. Not big names that you think are going to make impacts this year. But I think the big issue is that their quarterback Matt Stafford been nursing back injury here. He hasn't been able to really been in the practices with the guys, and while he has Puka Nakua there in this rapport there, he needed some reps with Devontae. So maybe that sways some people in fantasy for where they pick Devontae at. They're probably going to value Puka early. Kyrie Williams is still, just got paid. Big, addition for them. Uh, Defense, young defense last year. Uh, got some great young pieces. Byron Young. Uh, oh, man. Of course, I'm blanking on the guy who I loved last year. Uh, but they have some young pieces there. I believe they're still building on that uh, team. Sean McVay still top two coach in the league. If you like the young guy, you go McVay. You like just stability, you go Andy Reid. He's probably the heir apparent when Andy retires to become best in the league. Jared Verse, uh, Braden Fisk on the D line. Cam Kitchens in the safety room. They have a young defense, but they were better than what they filled a role from where Aaron Donald left. But the question is, can Matthew Stafford stand upright and be healthy enough in the playoffs? Because I think that's where he's going to be the biggest impact. Is if he's not healthy in the playoffs, they're not going to be really going anywhere unless you think Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett are going to be made into really good quarterbacks by McVay. But Steve, I know you noted Matthew Stafford fan from Detroit. What do you think about this Rams team?
Yeah, I think, like you said, this the success of this team really is going to be riding on Matthew Stafford's health because, I mean, sure, you brought in Devontae Adams. It's going to be the wide receiver room looks really good, but your backup quarterback's Jimmy Garoppolo, and I think we all remember the last time Jimmy Garoppolo was throwing balls to Devontae Adams. Adams was not happy, and that was one of the main reasons why he got traded to the Jets in the first place. So having Jimmy Garoppolo be the quarterback for your team is really gonna not just cap the upside, it's gonna kneecap like the upside for really these wide receivers. Uh, I mean, yeah, Puka, he's great, but I don't know. I'm still iffy on him because of his injury history. He had problems in college staying healthy. He got injured last year. Um, that on top of the Matthew Stafford stuff just really makes me hesitant to take Puka at the end of the first round, beginning of the second. There are just other guys there I'd probably prefer to have. Um, Devontae Adams, he showed last year he's still got it. With as long as Stafford's healthy, I think there's still a possibility for him to still be a good, solid contributor for fantasy. Like you said, they just re-upped on Kyron Williams. I think he's still going to be solid, especially with the schedule that the Rams have this year. It's looking like a lot of good matchups for running backs for him. So I'm not dissuaded at all from taking Kyron, even with the pick of Jarquez Hunter in the fourth round this year. We got enough Blake Corum hype last year to really see because Hunter's been getting some of that hype for this year too, and I think McVay's really shown, especially with the extension that Williams is their guy. So not at all scared of him. Um, and yeah, their second round pick Terrence Ferguson. Um, I really liked him coming into the draft. I think he could easily long term slide into the Tyler Higbee role, especially since he's been getting injured of recently, and I think got even more upside than Higbee had. So, uh, could be a really good dynasty option, future starter, especially in a Sean McVay offense. Yeah, the defense is solid, but yeah, the still got questions about this offensive line. It's not the worst, but especially with the already Stafford having some injury concerns, I am a little concerned. So, as long as Stafford stays healthy, I think this is a playoff team who could even make a deep push, but it's just the the injury concerns is what I'm really worried about with this team.
Yeah, that's true. That's why, earlier I said running backs, you can get them in any round. Kyron Williams, a fifth round pick a couple of years ago. Corum, late round pick from last year. You can fill the spot. You don't need to spend big draft capital on these guys. Especially we can, give them their, 3 year, 33 million for Kyron, 11 a year, 23 million guaranteed. It's not going to be a big hit on any cap space there. But yeah, let's see. Can Matt Stafford just, the O line needs to keep him upright, and probably he's going to be top of the league in time to throw. I think we're trying to get that ball out quick with his nagging injuries. Now moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, who, if you didn't know, have the easiest schedule in the league. I don't know if you've heard that, but they do. So while they have the easiest schedule, they also lost a lot on defense. As we said earlier, Talon Hufanga's gone, Dre Greenlaw, Travis Ward. They lost some pieces there. Uh, and what did they do? They brought in Trey Brown, Sarah Neal for corners. They trade for Bryce Huff. Uh, Mac Jones backing up Brock Purdy. Their big swing was in the first round. They go get Michael Williams, the edge rusher, who, in the moment when they drafted him, seemed like a bit of a reach for them, but they are dying for edge rushers. And he's been giving some positive notes. We'll see how, if he's going to be a factor early on or not. But the story is, Debo's gone. They traded him away. Juwan Jennings, uh, hurt, wants a new contract. Uh, can Ricky Pearsall stay healthy? Christian McCaffrey coming off a season where you thought he was going to be healthy. That's what can't trust Kyle Shanahan when it comes to any injury news because he'll just lie to you. Can he? He doesn't need to be 2 years ago. Christian McCaffrey, MVP candidate. Uh, if you give me like an 85% McCaffrey, I think he will be, especially with the lack of receiver depth. He needs to be a factor in that passing game for Brock Purdy, who also big contract. He's got the stability now, and while I am a big fan of Brock Purdy, I think he's a top end court. He's not top 10 per se. He's still top of the league between that 11th, 16th spot there. And I think he could. He's better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But now they got the easiest schedule, but as I said, wide receivers have been getting hurt. George Kittle had a great season. He's still there. He also seems to also pick up injuries here and there. O line desperately needs help as well. They lose their backup tackle. They still have Trent Williams there though, so that's going to be. I think while they have the easiest schedule, there's some definite concerns with their defense. They and offensive line. Can Robert Saleh, who they brought back, make magic with some pieces that not a lot of people are confident in? What do you see about this team, Steve?
Yeah, like you said, easiest schedule in the league, so uh, they should have a wild card spot for them, uh, considering the amount of talent that they have on this team. Uh, yeah, going to the draft, like you said, Michael Williams, I really like him as a lot of athletic upside. Really solid run defender. He just needs to develop in the passing game. He was someone who I was really hoping would slide to the Lions, but did not happen the way I wanted it to. Um, Jordan James taken in the fifth round. We know Shanahan loves these late round running backs, so if God forbid McCaffrey ends up getting injured, he could end up seeing some work and could end up being either a waiver wire or late round steal for fantasy. He could end up winning leagues for a lot of people. Um, yeah, Brock Purdy's solid. Um, but the wide receiver depth, Ayuk still coming off his injury. Uh, Pearsall, we'll see if he can take a year two step up, and Juwan Jennings using the lack of wide receiver depth to try to get a contract extension. Um, we'll see who really um can show out to be the top option for their wide receivers. Um, whether it's Pearsall or Jennings or if I can step back into that role. But because of that, George Kittle, he's recently extended. He seems like someone who could really see a lot of volume in this offense and could even end up looking like George Kittle of old. Uh, instead of more recently where he'll have a huge game, and then next game they just ask him to block all game. I think they're actually going to need Kittle to produce in the passing game to really keep this offense moving. So he's someone who I love. Probably the end of like those top tier tight ends um, for fantasy that like you really have a lot of confidence in. Um, but yeah, the defense, like you said, a lot of departures in free agency outside Fred Warner, the linebackers not looking the best. Lost a couple pieces in the secondary, but um, Robert Saleh was able to make the defense work before with a weak secondary, so I still think this is a great team, easy schedule. Um, I'm just curious to see if, with all the losses they had, if they'll actually be able to make a push in the playoffs and be a true Super Bowl contender. But other than the Chiefs, the 49ers have had the most recent success with making it to um, their conference championship game. So it's hard to really doubt this team with the coaching and the talent that they have.
Yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey, if he comes back, 85% will be definitely help. Where he's going in fantasy drafts, a little too rich
You,
for my blood.
I mean, you could take him in like the second round, and if he's healthy all year, like we said, it's easy schedule. He should be like a really good pick so long as he stays healthy.
I mean, if you're anything like me, you don't have the luck with Christian McCaffrey. He always gets hurt when you have him. And every time I have him, he never makes a full season. So too rich for me. But if he does, like Steve said, be healthy and have somewhat of the similar thing he had a couple years ago, he could be a great value. If you say second round, and he becomes one of the top 5 running backs. But they got the schedule. They just need to execute their wins. They got to take it one game at a time, and that's how they can make it to playoffs. Uh, I don't think anyone should expect 15, 13 to 15 wins. I think more along. I think a safe would be between 8 and I think 12. That would be a good year for them between 8 and 12, especially because we're about to talk about a team that I think that me and Steve are going to be completely two opposites of, because I think the Seattle Seahawks are awful, are just awful. Especially when you lose you lose your senior advisor Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, quarterback, gets traded. They bring in Sam Darnold, who I know Steve isn't a fan of from the last pod. Uh, they bring in Cooper Kupp, who maybe more of a not going to be anywhere near his triple crown status. Uh, O line still shaky. Injuries. They go get Greg Zabel, offensive guard in the first round. Nick Imawari, safety. I just and they also get Jalen Milroe, who possibly could be their future if Darnold isn't all he's cracked up to be. Which if I'd have put my money on it, I think that O'Connell really made him look better than he actually is. Kenneth Walker always got some kind of nagging injury going on here. They have JSN, who's a stud wide receiver, but as I was saying earlier, their O line has the same issues that the Rams have, where they can never seem to be healthy at the same time, and they didn't really do a lot to put the depth there. Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross can be good tackles. They're just often injured when that happens. They got some solid corners there: Reek Woolen, Devon Witherspoon, uh, Demarcus Lawrence came over last year, didn't do anything. Leonard Williams, their big Russian guy. Byron Murphy coming off his rookie season. Can he improve on that? I just I don't see them doing anything other than being the bottom of this division. I just don't think they got the talent offensive wise to put up with a lot of their, especially because their schedule they have a second place schedule, so they're going to have a harder schedule than most teams. Um, and I think what mostly comes down to is Sam Darnold looked way better than I think he's actually going to be. Now, Steve, I'm sure you're going to try to sway me, or at least tell people that you disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not as down on the Seahawks as you are. I think McDonald is a solid head coach, and I think he's going to be able to get this defense in a really solid spot. And I think that's where the success from this team is going to come, is a good solid defense and a good run game. Uh, I like bringing in Clint Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. He's been saying how they need to run the ball more. Um, we'll see if Kenneth Walker can stay healthy, but I think he's got a lot of upside, especially in fantasy, especially if he can stay healthy. Um, but yeah, Sam Darnold, we'll we'll see if he's able to keep the ghosts away. We don't want Sam Darnold seeing ghosts because that's clearly his biggest weakness. We saw it at the end of last year. When pressure starts coming at him, he can't handle it. And the Seahawks offensive line last year definitely wasn't the best. That's why I really liked the Gray Zabel pick. I really liked their draft as a whole. I'm sure I had mentioned Eamon in the when we were talking about the combine as well. Athletic freak. He's someone who could really play in the box, really effectively. Super fast, super big. I think McDonald is going to get the most out of him, similar to the way that he got the most out of his players when he was on the Ravens. Um, Elijah Arroyo, probably one of the better tight ends taken in this draft. They got rid of Noah Fant, so I think there's potential for Arroyo to be a contributor in fantasy this year. Like Mitch said, Jalen Milrow probably not going to be uh, seeing too much time this year unless an injury happens or Sam Darnold is just playing absolutely horrendously, but he's got a lot of athletic upside if he can just work on his consistency and actually uh, hit throws more on of a consistent basis. But also the fifth round pick, Torrey Horton from Colorado State, looking like, especially through training camp and this first preseason game, he might have the that third wide receiver spot locked up behind JSN and Cooper Cup, especially since Cooper Cup and JSN are seem to be more slot wide receivers. Uh, Torrey Horton is definitely the big body outside speed guy that you want on the outside. So he could be a sleeper for this year and even for Dynasty in the future. Um, for Jason, I think the question is, can he step into that wide receiver one role? Can he really take in those extra targets and be a true difference maker for this team? Um, Cooper Cup, I don't know. I not too confident in him. I'm probably going to be avoiding him. He'll still be a contributor for the team, but I'm for the most part avoiding him in fantasy drafts. Um, but yeah, I think long term success or for this team down the stretch going into the playoffs is, can Sam Darnold hold up and show that what he did last year wasn't just a fluke and wasn't just a product of Kevin O'Connell's offense. And I think um, with a good established run game and a good solid defense, I think Sam Darnold can be a solid game manager, but probably will not be uh, putting up any kind of fantasy relevant numbers.
Yeah, just the offensive line health is going to be a big thing, especially with the ghosts. If the offensive line is at all a problem, I think that could be the big issue. Kenneth Walker needs to stay healthy. I know they got Charbonnet behind him, who was solid when in his place when Walker was out. Preseason game, George Halani, former Bronco from Boise State, had a big game. Um, they're just, maybe you wish they had like a outside wide receiver, like someone that's like 6'4" and like jacked, right? And
And
like
that's
could
that's
run
Torrey
go
Horton
balls.
for him.
I mean, well, we'll see. Cooper Cup outside of one season in LA has over 90 targets every season. I don't know if he's going to get all those targets this year. JSN, you I want to root for him because I think he's a really good wide receiver, but
He's
I
going
think
in
they're
like the
bottom.
second round, and I think that's like a little too rich for me. Like at the end of the
That's a
second.
lie. That's a little high. Well, it might be a little high. I do think that if you want to take him there, there is the upside because I think they're not going to be ahead in a lot of these games. I think they might gonna have to throw the ball a lot. But that is it for us. Thank you again for enjoying another podcast from us. I'm Mitchell McCann with Steven Sauert, and we will see you again next time.